The silence after the last engine roar is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's just me, the flickering fluorescent lights, and the sound of her trying not to fall apart. She's failing. Her shoulders shake, and the sob she's choking back cracks the cold midnight air like a fault line. I know pain. I build things that can withstand it. But this is different. You don't forget a sound like that. It echoes in the hollow places you've built inside yourself. I told myself for 2 days it was just humanity, basic decency. But the truth started whispering to me the moment I walked away from that hotel room. My own heart beating like it was trying to escape a cage I didn't even know I was in. That night, Dallas had a bone-deep chill. My truck was in the shop, so I was stuck at the downtown station after a long day checking on a high-rise site. Concrete and rebar were my world. I understood their language: stress, load, foundation. The bus was late. I was annoyed, scrolling through invoices on my phone when I saw her. She was a still point in the empty, echoing chamber. Just a woman on a bench, a small suitcase at her feet, her face buried in her hands. Her crying wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, desperate, and utterly exhausted. The kind that comes when you have nothing left. I didn't think, I just walked over. My boots scuffed on the tile, loud in the quiet. She flinched, looked up. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, terrified. In that split second, I saw more than fear. I saw a story I recognized, the one where you have to be so tough you forget how to be soft. "Ma'am?" My voice was rougher than I intended. "You all right?" She just shook her head, a quick, sharp movement. "Missed my connection?" She whispered, the words frayed. "Last one tonight, I didn't know they closed the waiting area." Natalie. Her name was Natalie Evans. She said it like she was testing it out, like she wasn't sure it belonged to her anymore. I bought her a terrible coffee from the vending machine and a stale sandwich. She ate like she'd forgotten how. I learned she'd gotten on a bus in Louisiana and hadn't stopped running. The details were sparse, but the shadows in her eyes told the rest. A family. A promise she never made. A life she refused to live. So I did the only thing that made sense. I got her a room at a decent hotel a few blocks away. I paid for 3 nights. "It's not charity," I said, my tone all business, the one I used with subcontractors. "You can pay me back when you're on your feet." It was a lie we both accepted. I needed her to take it, and she needed a reason to. The next morning, I didn't call. I just showed up at the hotel with a cheap prepaid phone and a proposition. My site office is a disaster. Invoices are stacked to the ceiling. The schedule's a nightmare, and my foreman's handwriting is criminal. You need a job. I need order. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. Her eyes were clear now, a deep, thoughtful brown. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're here," I said, and the simplicity of it hung between us. "That's enough for now." She came to work, and she was a revelation. Within a week, the office was a place of calm efficiency. She had a quiet way of commanding respect, a sharp mind that saw solutions in the chaos. We fell into a rhythm. My days were grit and noise and sun. Hers were organized and calm. I'd come in covered in dust, and she'd have cold water and the most urgent problem already solved. We didn't talk about before. We talked about concrete pours and permit delays. But then, something started to shift. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was full. I'd catch myself watching her concentrate, the way she'd bite her lip, the small smile when she untangled a problem. I found reasons to be in the office. I'd tell her stories about the guys on site, about the absurdity of building something so tall, and I'd listen. I'd listen to her talk about books, about how she missed the smell of rain on hot pavement. Little pieces of herself she'd offer, one at a time. One evening, I was working late. The sun was setting, painting the office in oranges and deep blues. She was finishing up, shutting down her computer. The quiet was comfortable, warm. "Why did you really help me, Marcus?" she asked softly, not looking at me. That night. The question caught me off guard. I leaned against the doorframe, looking out at the skyline I'd helped build. "I've spent my life making sure things don't fall down," I said, my voice low. "Seeing someone about to crumble, I guess I just had to shore up the foundation." She walked over to stand beside me, following my gaze. Our shoulders almost touched. "You make it sound so simple." "It wasn't," I admitted. The confession felt dangerous. It wasn't simple at all. That was the moment. The moment the ground beneath me, the ground I'd stood on for 38 years, didn't feel so solid anymore. And I was terrified. Not of her, of me, of this wanting. This need to be more than the sum of my calluses. And that's when the letter came. Forwarded from a friend of a friend she'd contacted when she first arrived. A job offer, a good one, in San Diego, a clean start, far from any memory of Texas or Louisiana. A chance to rebuild herself on her own terms. She showed it to me, her hand steady but her eyes searching mine for something. I felt my whole world tilt. My chest went tight, like a steel band was squeezing around it. I looked at the paper, then at her, and I did the worst possible thing. I became the Marcus Reed everyone knew, the tough one, the reliable one, the one who felt nothing. "This is what you wanted," I said, my voice flat, final. "A real chance. You should take it." The light in her eyes flickered and went out. She just nodded, folded the letter carefully, and walked away. And I stood there in my empty, perfect, quiet office and realized I had just demolished the only thing I'd ever built that truly mattered. The next 2 days were the longest of my life. The silence in the office had teeth. Natalie was professional, polite, and a million miles away. She was already packing her life into that same small suitcase. Every time I saw it by her desk, my stomach dropped. I'd built skyscrapers, but I couldn't find the words to fix this. Pride is a hell of a painkiller. It numbs you right up until the moment it doesn't. And then, the agony is unbearable. The night before her bus was scheduled to leave, a storm rolled over Dallas. It wasn't gentle rain, it was a fury, lightning cracking the sky open, wind howling around the steel skeletons of my buildings. I was in the empty site office, staring at a set of blueprints I hadn't absorbed a word of. The storm felt fitting. It matched the chaos inside me. And then I just knew, this was it, the last chance, the point of no return. I didn't grab my coat, I just ran out into the downpour. My truck tore through flooded streets, the wipers fighting a losing battle. Her hotel was across town. Every red light was a torture. My hands were clenched on the wheel, my heart hammering a frantic, desperate rhythm against my ribs. I was soaked to the skin by the time I slammed the truck door and took the stairs 2 at a time. I stood in front of her door, breathless, rain dripping from my hair, my clothes plastered to me. I raised my hand to knock and froze. What was I doing? What could I possibly say? I was a man who worked with his hands, not his heart. I didn't have poetic words, I had calluses and blunt truths. I knocked. The door opened. She stood there, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, her eyes wide with surprise. She looked like she hadn't slept. Behind her, the suitcase sat open on the bed, half full. "Marcus? You're drowning." Her voice was soft, confused. "I know." The words tumbled out, raw and unvarnished. I know I told you to go. I know I stood there and acted like it didn't rip me in half to say it. I was trembling, but not from the cold. I've spent my whole life afraid of things falling apart, so I build things that stand. And you walked in, and from that first second at that bus station, you were the only thing that ever made me feel like I might not stand. Like my own foundation was shaking. She didn't speak. She just looked at me, her lips parted, tears welling in those deep brown eyes. So I got scared, I whispered, the admission tearing something loose inside me. I got so scared, Natalie, and I pushed you toward that bus because it was easier than asking you to stay, than telling you that this thing between us, it's the strongest thing I've ever felt. Stronger than concrete, stronger than steel. A tear traced a path down her cheek. She took a small, shuddering breath. I'm not a poet, I said, my voice cracking. I'm a builder, and I'm standing here in the rain asking you, please, let me build something with you, here, anywhere. Don't go to California, stay, choose this, choose us. The silence that followed was a vast, open space. The only sound was the rain lashing the window. I watched her, every second an eternity, my hope hanging by a thread. Then she moved. One step, then another. She reached up, her hands cool against my rain-soaked face. I was never going to get on that bus, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I bought the ticket, I packed the bag, but I knew the second I handed you that letter and saw your face close up, that I was already home. I was just too afraid to say it. A sob escaped me. A rough, broken sound of pure relief. I pulled her to me, holding her like I was anchoring myself to the world. She buried her face in my wet shirt, her arms tight around my back. We stood there in the doorway, holding on, the storm raging outside, and a perfect, fragile peace settling between us. She didn't go to California. She stayed. We built a life, not from blueprints, but from shared mornings and quiet understandings. We built it from me learning to let someone see the cracks, and from her learning that her strength could be a shelter, not just an escape. A year later, I took her back to that bus station. It was just past midnight, quiet and still. I got down on one knee on the cold tile, right near the bench where I'd first seen her. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes shining under those same fluorescent lights. This is where my life truly began, I said, my voice steady now, sure. The night I found the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, crying in the dark. Marry me, Natalie. Let me spend forever building a life with you. She said yes. She said yes through tears, but this time they were the kind that heal, that promise, that begin things. Our story didn't start in the sunlight. It started in the lonely midnight, with a cry in the dark, and a hand offered without expectation. We built our love from there, strong, grounded, and meant to weather any storm, and it does. Every single day it does.